The show focused on delivering beneficial information on everything to do with products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Welcome back. Sterling Fox with you on Recovery Radio, this edition of Experts on Call. Today we're digging into the complexity that is addiction and the solution that is recovery with the folks from the Orchard on Bowen Island. Lorinda Strang is the executive director. Anne-Marie McCullough is the director of communications and community relations. And also joining us in studio is Constance Barnes, who is an alumnus of the Orchard Recovery Center. Hi, Constance.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How long ago did you go to the Orchard?
Well, it was over 4 years ago now. So June 12th was my 4-year birthday, I call it. So 4 years of recovery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what was the substance to which you were addicted?
Alcohol.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you tell us your story?
It's a long story.
That's
so
all right.
I'll keep it, short, but in all honesty, it, over the years and drinking and kind of binge drinking, I would consider myself a functioning alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I got myself into a situation where I thought it was okay to go to a beach and drink, and I got in my vehicle and ended up getting a DUI. So for me, being an elected, as I'm sure people know, it was a really tough decision that I had to make to either go into, kind of isolation,
Mm-hmm.
which I did in the beginning, because of course you don't want anybody to know.
Sure.
This is something you want to keep secret.
Right.
But it was also an option for me to own what I'd done, take full responsibility for what I've done, and get myself some help. And that's when I ended up at the Orchard.
Now, let me stop you there because
Yes.
I don't know that everyone listening is aware of who you are. You describe yourself as an
elected.
You're
Yes.
an elected. You're a Vancouver
Park Board Commissioner. Absolutely.
Daughter of a
Emery
former MLA,
That's right.
Emery Barnes.
That's
so
correct.
You come from quite a high-profile political family.
I do. And, I'll tell you in all honesty, after the DUI, and I talked to some other people, and they're like, we'll get you through this. It was an option to either keep it secret and have kind of the system work through it for me, or I could hear my dad in my head kind of pulling that, you were raised to, when the you-know-what hits the fan, you address it. You take it on, you take full responsibility, and I could hear Pops in my head going, damn, girl, you better deal with this one.
Right.
So,
Were you, at the time
Yeah.
when you first went to the Orchard about
Yes.
4 or 5 years ago now.
Correct.
Were you a public figure at that time?
I sure as heck was.
So you were...
I wasn't elected.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it was interesting. It was frightening.
Well, politics, first of all, is a pretty high-stress business.
Absolutely, it
and
is.
a lot of people in politics
Yes.
drink like fish.
Yes, they do, and frightening enough, I was one of them, and I just didn't do it in public.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people, Sterling, that I call it binge drinking, but I would isolate. I would kind of go off on my own. It's one of those things where I knew my family knew. I had a couple of friends that maybe thought. My children definitely knew, but it was a situation that was building. And you're right, it is a very stressful job being an elected. For me, I knew that I was functioning, but I knew I had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But and I was listening to Lorinda and Anne-Marie before, and this is a very odd disease. And if you go to the doctors and they say you've got cancer or you've got something, whatever it may be,
diabetes or whatever,
you go, oh geez, and you automatically look at, okay, what are the next steps I need to do?
Right.
You have a doctor that looks at you and says you're an alcoholic. This is the only disease that tells you no, you don't have it. This is the one disease that in your head you're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No matter what somebody's going to tell you,
Right.
if you're in denial, which another friend of mine says, denial is not a river in Egypt.
Right.
It's truth. It's one of those things where you don't want to accept it. So for me, I thought I need to have a press conference. I need to let everybody know that this is what's happening before it leaks out. I need to own it, and I need to take the next steps to get myself the help. And that's when I ended up at the Orchard.
Okay, so you got busted for drinking under the influence.
That's correct.
And as an elected person, obviously had to own this
Yes.
and fess up and
That's
all the
right.
rest of it.
Right.
So it
Well, you
was.
didn't have to,
It
but
was.
you did.
No, you're right. I didn't have to.
You
It was my
to.
decision.
You absolutely didn't have to.
No.
And there have been incidents of other elected officials
right.
in other jurisdictions
Yes.
who are to this minute,
That's
alcoholics.
Right. Yes, and I'm looking at them or going, trying to channel. I'm going, come on, man, get some help. There's hope out there.
And whether it's a federal member of parliament or a big city mayor in
Yeah.
another province, and we all know who we're talking about.
Yes,
I mean, we sit here 2,000 miles away and we look at these characters and go, this guy's got a huge problem.
He does have
and yet no one seems to be able to sort of have the backbone to stand up to him and go, look, buddy, you got a real problem. Constance, who did that to you? Who looked you right in the eye and said, lady, you got a real problem?
Myself.
Really?
Myself, yeah.
Okay.
Myself. I mean, I'd heard it from other people, but I wasn't listening. I did not want to hear it. And again, I have to tell you, I was in a situation where I was at home, and for your listeners, I was in my room, and I was drinking to kind of hide everything that was going on in my head and my fear, and oh my God, what's going to happen? I've just been elected. I had no idea what my next steps needed to be. And it was, even though my dad has not been here for many years, we lost him to cancer, he was in my head. I could hear Pops in my head saying, you need to deal with this, and you need to, you need to own up to it. And that's when I remembered, the way I was raised, times are tough, but you got to deal with it, and you will get through it.
Right.
So that's when I made a call, and the next thing you know, I was standing in front of a room packed with media, answering very tough questions, really tough questions, being kind of raked over the coals, but I knew that's what I had to do.
How many times in that press conference, there you were, for the whole world to see?
Yes.
How many times did cheeky reporters suggest you just pack it in and quit?
Many times. Many times. There were insults thrown. There was, your dad would be so disgusted with you, and, what do you think your father would say?
Right.
Because, of course, being a Barnes, it is very much that. I have to say that's part of it, too. I thought, okay, I need to be my father's daughter. And I know that there were times that he had to deal with controversy, and you own it and you deal with it. But with that being said, you need to do the right thing. And for me, I also thought if Pops was around, what he would want me to do is take this, own it, but now how do you give back? How do you reach out to the community? How do you help those people that are still struggling? And that's what part of recovery is. We're here talking about our stories. We're here talking about, this is a disease. I believe it is a dis-ease. Because I drank when I was anxiety, I had panic, or I was happy, or I was sad, and there was a celebration, or I was depressed. No matter what it was, there was dis-ease to a certain extent.
Sure.
And what I realized is when I started going into those rooms, there are so many other people still struggling. There are so many other people that have the opportunity to give back, but to reach out. And I thought, hey, I'm able to sit here right now and get on the radio, and if there's one person out there sitting with a cup of coffee and a little bit of rum in it, or having a little sip of something to get them through the day, I want them to know that, hey, I'm coming up to 5 years sobriety.
Right.
This is the best I've ever felt.
Right.
I am so thrilled with my life right now. It is unbelievable. It's friggin' unbelievable.
Well, that's great.
And I never thought it would be,
Tell me about being a mom, because you have two children.
I do.
And they were obviously around during all of these years. Because you said you're 5 years clean and sober now. This DUI obviously happened about 5 years ago then.
Right.
How many years had you been drinking? Would you have called yourself an alcoholic in retrospect that the kids lived through?
Yeah. Well, I'm one of those people that I believe I was born with this disease. I think it crept up on me. I mean, through the modeling years, we drank. We did other things. I have history here. I believe that for me, and I think Anne-Marie mentioned this, when I hit about 40, just over 40, it started to kind of accumulate. And I'm hitting 55 this year. So the tolerance level changed. And I find, my struggle, and it still is a struggle, is making sure that my kids see a consistent mother, a mother that will respect them and their memories. I work diligently to make sure that I'm in my program, that I'm doing what I need to do to address my behaviors, because I still have old behaviors. It's not just about putting down the drink.
Right.
It's about all of that insanity in my head that comes along with it, and really honoring what I put my kids through.
Right.
It is difficult, and I will continue to do the very best I can to work with my family. I had a sister that pretty much wrote me off. She said, I cannot even be around you for a year. Those are the struggles that every day when I talk to my sister now, I am grateful. I have a gratitude list every day, but I'm grateful because now we are probably tighter than we have ever been.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it's been
Lorinda,
tough.
at the Orchard, in addition to the 25 people in residence at any given time who are seeking help and counseling for their addiction, do you work with their families, with, for example, Constance's kids? Do you encourage family members? Obviously, they're not going to move in and stay for 6 weeks, but are there programs that involve family members who have been through the whole ride and who are probably a little messed up themselves as a result of it?
Yes, the whole family can become sick. Because addiction doesn't happen just to the person, it happens to everybody around you.
You share it like it or not, right?
Yes, and it's devastating for the family members.
Yes.
And they are they are in need of help. So different family members are at different stages of what they're willing to do. So we do have a family program, and that consists of the family coming every Saturday, and once in the 6-week cycle we have an extended family program of 2 days.
Okay.
And visiting, and we also have the counselor may have a conversation with the family member, so there's dialogue with the family. We encourage the families to participate in the person's recovery.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in because the families are encouraged, but in all honesty, my family was so angry with me because it was so public. They, they were kind of like, no, we've had it.
Right.
So, but what I would say is now, my family is probably closer because of the Orchard and the tools that I was taught.
Right.
And it's ongoing. So I can pick up the phone and call Lorinda, Daryl, who was amazing, Patrick Fay, who was amazing. These are people, if I'm struggling with a little bit, not so much wanting to pick up and drink, but with scenarios that are going on in my life, maybe with my daughter, I feel so comfortable picking up the phone and calling the Orchard, and depending on the issue, there's somebody there that's going to kind of say, okay, Constance, here's some steps, talk me through it, and it's so comforting knowing that the folks there at the Orchard are there for me pretty much 24/7.
So you maintain an ongoing relationship,
Absolutely.
even though you are, to use my word, a graduate, an alumnus of the program. Again,
it's family.
It's ongoing.
It is absolutely
You
ongoing.
just never can stop paying attention to the maintenance,
That's right. Well, life never stops.
Anne-Marie, you talked earlier about your stepdad being an alcoholic, and that was kind of the role model that you grew up with. Again, so there would be some anger there. I would imagine in all of these family scenarios, the family members are really angry. They've been taken on a ride that they never in their wildest dreams imagined.
They didn't buy a ticket
especially children. A spouse is one thing because they're grown-ups and they can kind of handle it, I guess. But kids, what a different ball game for them, huh?
Absolutely.
Were you angry as a kid, Anne-Marie, when you were growing up because of that constant sort of drunken influence always there in your life?
Well, I think what I grew up with is fear, never knowing what was going to happen next. And my dad was a big drinker as well, so there'd be periods of sobriety, and then there'd be, this episode where, we'd find him passed out on the floor, or something like that would happen. So it was a lot about uncertainty. What I've actually discovered is the anger is coming now, many, many years later.
Right.
I'm starting to recognize that I have a lot of unresolved anger at what happened to me as a child. So, and just really quickly, when I came to the Orchard, my husband at the time did not support my decision to come to the Orchard. He did not support my getting sober, and he didn't come to any of the family programming. So it was very sad. It was very hard being there by myself every weekend when all the families would come to support. But you know what? It did end up making me stronger. I realized that, my reliance was never going to be on somebody else to help me, not like another family member to support me through it. It was going to have to come from within, and my, for me personally, my own spiritual beliefs. So, it did make me a stronger person. But, it's really, we are encouraging families to come.
Sure.
The Orchard Family Program is very, very important. It's,
right,
Constance and I, unfortunately, both share the story that we didn't have our families come, but many, many families come. And what happens there on Saturdays is amazing. I hear the stories all the time, the following few days after, and what the miracles that can happen when families are reunited
But even
through recovery.
if you don't have a family member there and you're listening to the other families, that's still helpful to you.
Well, sure, because you
frustrating.
can... Right.
Either way.
Right. But I guess, and I need to take a break here,
Yes.
but Constance, just before we go, just to resolve this whole anger thing, because there is a resentment. I mean, all those years, and you just weren't there for me. I mean, you were physically in the house, but you weren't much use to my emotional development.
Right.
So I'm pissed off.
Yes.
And I've got to tell you that because this is just boiling up inside me. Right. So part of it, as the recovery, is allowing your family to pop off.
Yes.
And
they do, let me tell you.
But get it out on the table.
Yes.
So then you're it's out.
That's right.
And then there's no hiding, no secrets, no resentment, no ongoing.
I think there's always going to be resentment. I don't know about the secrets, but it needs to be out. It needs to be open. I need to honor it, and I need to respect what their memories and feelings are.
So it is important. And you learn at the Orchard how to listen to people who are perhaps a little ticked at you.
That word listening.
Right.
It's a new part of the personality, listening to the children.
This is Recovery Radio on AM 650, and there'll be lots more for you to listen to right after this timeout.
Delivering relevant and beneficial consumer information. This is Experts on Call, and there's more still ahead on AM 650.